Hello fellow egoists, today we'll be doing an in-depth analysis of chapter 199 to 203. What I want to highlight with this video is how good of a playmaker Isagi is, but also touch on certain key points in the story that need some more attention. Thanks again to Metezori on my Discord server for making the thumbnail of the video, and with all that said, let's head straight into the analysis. Chapter 199 first starts with Isagi getting the ball back from Nagi after his and Ryo's failed attempt to score. Now, Isagi only has one thing in mind, finding his best scoring option, but he quickly comes to a realization. There are currently none for him. If we take a look at the map, we can clearly see why. Isagi is in front of all the players on the field who are basically his enemies, outside of Kurona. Trying to flee up the right side of the field where some space is usable would actually lead nowhere, as the mass of players would just collapse on him either way. Isagi knows that if he wants to score, he needs to beat all 19 players in front of him, but also another thing. His current physical abilities won't let him follow his ideal path. He currently lacks the ability to realize his imagination, though a really interesting detail is that to him only a small boost was enough, and he is indeed right, as if we think about it, Isagi truly could have soloed the whole field along with Kurona had he been in his Uber's version. Though let's get back into the action. As Ryo comes to steal the ball again, Isagi can do nothing but despair at the fact that he can't even feel himself as the protagonist of the field. But in this abyss of darkness that's swallowing him, a light comes from the side to his aid. Noah has decided to ally himself with our egoist. After all, Isagi has been the most decisive so far in this match. Created multiple chances, defended multiple times, and right before all this blocked a play from the two aces of Manshine City. In terms of numbers, Isagi was by far the best option to follow. With Noah to his side, Isagi can see many routes to the goal, but if there are too many choices, how are you supposed to choose only one route? And Noah comes to aid Isagi not only physically but also mentally, giving to Isagi probably the most important advice for him moving forward: hold rationality deep inside your mind. The best option you can take is the one you can immerse yourself fully into. What is it that you want to fight for? With this question, Isagi finds his challenge: to beat Kaiser. With his two allies and his truth found, our egoist embarks on his biggest challenge yet. The matchup is finally here. Isagi Yoichi versus Manshine City and Kaiser's Bastard München. Our trio is now on their way to destroy the whole field in a panel similar to the one where Team Z did their final counterattack against Team V back in the first selection. Isagi passes to Kurona immediately as Arthur tries to press him, and Kurona passes back once again before Arthur can even try to switch the direction of his center of gravity. Though Isagi lets the ball get past and into the feet of Noah. With his great vision, Noah is able to see Agi before the latter can even try to tackle, evading it with a great lob touch, and as Chris Prince comes from Noah's blind spot to try and steal the ball, our number one striker passes it to Isagi, who went into Chris's blind spot, and so making a joke out of the number 2. Let's analyze quickly this sequence. First off, the tempo of Isagi and Kurona's 1-2 was perfect, as it gave no opportunity for Arthur to try and press properly one of our two players. Secondly, with Isagi letting the ball pass by him, we see a really important thing. Even if Isagi isn't the one having the ball, he's the one who dictates the flow of it. By letting the ball pass, he's letting Noah carry the ball and then use his greatest weapons, being his off-the-ball movement and vision, to go into positions where it would be most efficient to have the ball go. Now for the actual off-the-ball movement. Why did Isagi move this way? The answer lies in a simple thing that Nagi told us back in the second selection: humans can't instantly turn backwards. By moving into Chris and Noah's blind spot, not only is Isagi not seen by the former, but also by going into Chris's back, he forces Chris to turn around. If we draw a line over Chris along with an arrow to represent the direction of his run, we'll see what I mean. If Isagi stayed above the line, then Chris Prince would be easily able to press Isagi as it's in the direction of his run. So by going below the line, Chris is forced to turn around, unable to press the ball, and indeed, when looking at the panel, we see how he's forced to put on the brakes to follow Isagi. Another detail to catch is how Noah moved. As we see, Noah immediately moved near Isagi as to stop Chris from trying to turn around, and immediately pressed Isagi the same way that he did with Kaiser, but also moved in a way that he dodged Chris Prince's arm that would have otherwise stopped him. Though when Isagi gets the ball, Kaiser appears from his blind spot to try and steal it. A detail to catch here is that the sweat on Isagi isn't moving. It's as if we're in Isagi's POV and that time froze. What does he do when that happens? He immediately passes perfectly into Kurona's reach but also Arthur's blind spot without even looking. This pass makes it unable for Arthur to react, but the most insane part is Isagi's reaction. Because if we take Isagi's point of view, we would normally only be seeing Ness in front, but the moment Kaiser came from his blind spot, Isagi was able to put his arm on Kaiser's torso as to stop him from reaching the ball. In only milliseconds, Isagi was able to see Kaiser coming in from his blind spot, deal with him through his arm placement, and do a pass that beat both people pressing him and one defender without looking at the receiver. This is as insane as it gets in terms of playmaking in such a short amount of time. With this, our trio gets into the midfield and then they go for a triangle formation with Kurona passing the ball back to Noah. Though this triangle formation using one-touch passes, our trio easily deals with the midfield. Though why did Kurona pass the ball back instead of going by his own? Once again, we have to take in mind that Isagi is the one dictating the movement of the ball and also that he's supposed to be the finisher of this play. So for Isagi to be the finisher, the ball needs to move near him, as Noah and Kurona don't seem to have great long-range passing abilities. Another thing to take into account is Kurona's vision. While Noah is able to keep up with Isagi as he's been hinted to have meta-vision, Kurona isn't able to and so needs to be near Isagi to effectively use his speed to link up with Isagi. In just a few moments we'll see how this is done. With Isagi having the ball back, Busby comes to try and take it back, though before he's able to be even near Isagi, our egoist already puts his arm and body in a way that he has the advantage over Busby. While Isagi isn't the best physically, as we see here, through the way he prepares his 1v1s before they actually come and with great spacing thanks to his arms, he's able to keep the ball. Now another key detail is how we see Isagi moving to the right of the field as he deals with his 1v1. Why exactly? As to telegraph to Kurona where he wants our little shark to be. By moving this way, Kurona knows that he needs to go into the space Isagi is turning to, and so with a pass and through his arm placement, Isagi is able to beat his on-the-ball 1v1. Kaiser comes back once again to steal the ball and Isagi immediately knows what he needs to do. He baits Kaiser into a 1v1, which we know Isagi will surely lose, but before this happens, Noah immediately comes to take the ball mid-air and peep Isagi's run. While changing of directions, he also puts his hand on Kaiser's hips, making the Emperor unable to turn around to our egoist and forcing him to turn in a way that makes him lose the most time. This play right here is similar to the one of Hiyori and Isagi for their last goal in the Ubers match. Both Noah and Isagi had a visualization of the field which they went for, trusting that each other would be able to follow it. By going into this 1v1, Noah saw that Isagi would lose and so went to take the ball before Kaiser would take it, while Isagi believed that Noah would be able to see this and so went on his own run without needing to confirm that Noah would indeed be there, the same way that he believed in Hiyori's pass coming to him for his goal in the Ubers match. With a pass from Noah, our omniscient egoist now has 30 meters to go before reaching his shooting range. Let's analyze his thoughts. You're in the way, Kunigami. This comes from the fact that Kunigami is currently taking space centrally, making Isagi's route to the goal longer than it needs to be. What Kunigami could have went for as to give space for Isagi is going to the left part of the field, by doing so baiting the defender he currently has as to make Isagi's route to the goal shorter. Though we'll eventually talk about Kunigami's positioning, so don't worry you orange babu enjoyers, your ball will get his shine. Need some backup. For this is pretty simple. As we see on the field, Kurona is currently on the far left and Noah is behind Isagi, so Isagi is currently in a position where he's alone and has to keep going by himself, which he realizes right after. Though before he can finish his thoughts, the Rose Panther Chigiri comes in to try and tackle the ball out of Isagi's feet. But Isagi domesticates the Panther and instead makes it a house cat with a simple counter-style dribbling and efficient touches. But how did Isagi see this coming? For that we have to look at the play right before. When Isagi got the pass from Noah, he briefly looked at Noah and who do we see on the panel as Isagi then turns his head to face the ball? Our speedster Chigiri coming in. So the moment Isagi saw Chigiri, he immediately knew that Chigiri's protagonist's feeling of using his speed to tackle the ball away, which he already did before in the match, would come into play, thereby beating easily and efficiently the isekai truck that Chigiri was trying to be. Right before fully reaching the final third, our lazy genius Nagi Seishiro tries to get the ball back, but Isagi cleanly deals with him through a fake shot. This is something we saw from Rin's playstyle back in the second selection. The basic idea is that Isagi goes for a short course which Nagi is forced to defend against, as otherwise this may lead to a goal. But because Nagi is forced to react, Isagi has the upper advantage, and so can cleanly deal with the genius. Now Isagi dealt with Nagi through a pass, but we could for sure imagine that if he had a better dribbling, he would have dribbled past Nagi, and so gotten the ball even further by himself. Another important detail is that as Isagi gets past Nagi, he puts his hand on his back. This isn't just a tap on the back to play around. By doing this, Isagi is able to stop Nagi from turning around and so turns him from a threat to a simple baby chick unable to do anything. As Isagi says, Sia prodigy. Maybe a foreshadowing for the future? And now we come to our famous mud boat. As we saw earlier, Yuki aims to kill and steal the ball from Isagi whenever possible. So Isagi took this into account through egocentrism, and as we saw in the plays before, he never really paid attention to his blind spot. Why is that? Because he knew that at one point Yuki would try to come and steal the ball, so by not scanning his blind spot, but by scanning the rest of the field, Isagi knew who exactly was in his blind spot and that Yuki would still appear at one point. Had Isagi scanned his blind spot while already knowing that Yuki was there, it would defeat the purpose of all of this, since Yuki would be able to see that Isagi knew he was there and so could prepare himself better to beat Isagi in a 1v1. With Isagi finally free from any defender by baiting the last one in front of him for a 2v1 by using Yukimiya, our egoist is in prime position to score, and with a final cross from Kurona the game should be over. Or is it really? On the panel of the cross we see Chris Prince coming in to steal the ball with Noah on his tail. But more importantly, hiding right behind the text we see a certain someone. The rodent Mikhail Kaiser coming in to hijack Isagi's goal once again. But because the defender that Isagi beat still tried to go on him, a free space was created where our favorite mudboat Yukimiya is standing in while gaining PTSD from Isagi's words. With this no-look back heel pass, Isagi gives a super assist to the mudboat who goes for an insane gyro rebound shot which goes straight into the net and past the defense that Ryo tries to muster up. So with this main part of the analysis done, I hope I managed to convey how insane Isagi's vision, decision making, off-the-ball movement and football IQ are. With only 2 players by his side, Isagi was able to beat absolutely everyone on the field, and as he says himself, if he had just a small realistic boost to his stats, he could for sure beat everyone there. If he had just a better tad dribbling, he could have dribbled past Nagi. If he had a better, smaller boost to his speed, he could have went for the ball faster so that Kaiser wouldn't be able to catch up, and if he had a better physical, he could have for sure beat Kaiser in the duel the way that he did with Yukimiya in their training or Ness in the Ubers match. So with this main analysis done, we can finally touch on 2 other things: Kunigami's positioning and Ryo's final block. For Kunigami, as we see, he's always up the field before the plays even come. He's fully committing to be a goal poacher and is waiting for the ball to go up the field. Though he isn't just mindlessly doing this. As we said earlier, Kunigami is always forcing the defenders to pay attention to him. By doing so, he forces the defense to stay near in place to a certain extent and so stops them from going for aggressive plays. If they try to go for an aggressive play, then they create space behind them, and so space that Kunigami could use for a lob pass, for example, which he could for sure score with since we know how explosive he can be in the goal box. So while he did fuck up by staying too much in the middle, thereby forcing Isagi to go more on the wings, he still did great in general by forcing the defense in really uncomfortable positions. As Isagi says, off-the-ball movement is just as important as when you're on the ball since those moments are so far and few between. Now for Ryo's block. How did he manage to see the play? The important part is that while we can't exactly know where Ryo was because of how sly the offer was by hiding him, close to the entirety of the play, we know that he's in the zone on the right and behind or near the horizontal line of Isagi's position. Knowing that Ryo has meta vision, we can simply take where his pop should be, and we see that while Isagi was coming near the ball, Kaiser was right behind him, but also that the defender marking Yukimiya also went for Isagi, thereby leaving free space that Yukimiya was in. So with this, we can understand how Ryo knew that Isagi would pass. Since Ryo knew that Kaiser would for sure beat Isagi in a 1v1 and the free space that Yukimiya was in was something Isagi could use, he went to defense against whatever weak spot their formation had from the spot where Yukimiya could shoot from, that being the space that the goalkeeper couldn't reach. But why was Isagi not ready for Ryo to come and block the shot? Because Ryo, by using metavision, was able to move into Isagi's blind spot. And finally, in chapter 203, we can see how exactly Isagi beat Kaiser. While he couldn't beat him as a striker, he still made a fool of Kaiser, beating him not once, not twice, but 3 times, while even holding him by the collar and calling him a clown in front of him. And so with all of this, the video is finally done. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, I recommend watching my past weekly chapter reviews, but also BadGuyFromThere's field analyses, which go as much and even more in depth on top of generally having more football knowledge. So give it a watch, I highly recommend. You can also join the Discord server of the channel where I and other members regularly talk about Blue Lock in a deeper manner. Thanks for watching and have a great one, fellow egoists.